First of all, I must congratulate Dr. S.S. Gopakumar sir, principal and convener of this international conference, the coordinator Dr. Swarupa ma'am, another coordinator for the session today, Mr. Patil sir, professor who introduced me in detail, Nigde ma'am, and the entire team of D.Y. Patil Law College, Pune. Of course, it's an honor to be the part of this two-day international conference on law and society, multidisciplinary dialogues on justice, equity, and social change. Friends, the topic assigned to me by the organizers is justice and morality. So before I begin with the core of my talk, which will consider only three important aspects, that is justice, morality, and the reflections of justice and morality in literature. Friends, as you are all belonging to law colleges, and directly or indirectly we are familiar with different proverbs, maxims, and all that. I hope you might have heard about a couple of legal maxims like justice delayed is justice denied, and justice hurried is justice buried. Let us try to understand how is the implication of the concept of justice and how it is correlated with the concept of morality. Because both the legal maxims actually highlight the crucial balance between timely and fair justice, which is always expected by each one of us. Similarly, it also highlights the commitment of the honorable judges, the practicing lawyers, and their commitment for their business on moral grounds. So with this key note, I begin with the session today. Friends, whenever we look at justice and morality separately, definitely we come across numerous ideas in mind. But as a matter of fact, justice is a fundamental concept that actually revolves around the idea of fairness, equality, and moral rightness of actions and decisions. It also aims to ensure that the individuals and groups receive what they are due for, whether it be protection of rights, distribution of resources, or a kind of punishment for any kind of wrongdoing. On the other hand, you have the concept of morality. Actually, morality refers to the principles, standards, values in life which are guided by different aspects, different modules around. The principles, standards, and values which guide the individuals, which guide the groups in distinguishing between what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, what is acceptable and what is unacceptable kind of behavior. So probably You might know about the holy scripture, the Ramayana, and the reference to Lord Rama, and the reference to Vibhishana, who was the brother, real brother to Ravana. Anyway, I will come to it later. But this concept of morality actually encompasses the ethical beliefs and practices that shape how people behave and interact with others. Whenever we talk about justice and morality together, you will realize that justice actually embodies the notions of professional fairness, equality, and ethical rightness. On the other hand, you have morality. Morality encompasses principles of right and wrong conduct. Similarly, justice is actually shaped by a variety of principles, systems, and institutions. On the other hand, morality is shaped by cultural, religious, and philosophical beliefs. So, justice is about living with the people around. It means justice is about living with the other people around. On the other hand, morality is about living with your own self. Because the kind of moral standards that you set up for yourself, they are all related to you. They are all confined to you. Then, justice is about the right relation to others as measured against the mores of society. That is to say, the traditional customs and the ways of behaving that are typical of a particular society. But on the other hand, whenever you look at morality, morality is about the right relation to right itself. You cannot deviate from the righteousness as measured against your own understanding of the concept of morality. So, as a whole, whenever you talk about justice, justice is a complex and multifaceted concept, which is actually governed by a variety of principles, systems, and institutions. If you see, the elements which are contributing immensely in order to form a kind of atmosphere where the people of the country feel that yes, there is justice in our country, you will realize that different key factors contribute, different elements contribute, like the law of the country, the entire legal system, ethics and morality which is established in the respective country, because each country, each culture, each civilization, each geographical domain will have its own ethical standards and moral standards. I cannot compare the ethical and moral standards which are applicable in Indian society. I cannot apply the same for American society. I cannot apply the same for African society or any other society as such. So, the ethics, standards, and moral values of the country definitely contribute to the concept of justice and the implementation of justice in the entire country according to the law. Similarly, the fairness and equity also contributes in the building of justice in the nation. See, justice actually aims to ensure that individuals are treated fairly. I am talking about every individual, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, belonging, beliefs and disbeliefs, and so on. Because it is always treated fairly and equitably. This means that the similar cases should be treated alike, and any differences in treatment should be justified by the relevant factors which are as per the law of the country. Similarly, you have other elements also, like human rights, your judicial system, social justice, accountability and transparency. See, these elements also contribute in forming a kind of just atmosphere in the country. Let's talk about human rights. You know, international human rights and its own standards and conventions are also there. We need to follow all these international human rights, standards, conventions in association with our own law, so that we protect our law, but at the same time we follow the international standards. Because these standards and conventions play a crucial role in shaping justice, not for one country, but at a large for the entire world. So these standards aim to protect the inherent dignity and rights of all human beings, regardless of their background, circumstances, geographical locations, cultural inheritance, and civilizational belonging. So this factor we need to consider whenever we talk about justice as such. Similarly, you have the concept of morality, because whenever we talk about justice, naturally you need to talk about morality as well. Actually, morality is often governed by a combination of factors which influence our understanding of what is right and what is wrong. See, right in the beginning, I gave a reference to the holy scripture Ramayana. Of course, we like Vibhishana because in dire need, the brother of Ravana, means Vibhishana, helped Lord Rama. And that's why we think that whatever he did is, of course, on the righteousness, on the path of righteousness. On certain moral grounds, we feel that the stand taken by Vibhishana is that of a righteous stand, because the side of Rama or the views of Rama were justifying his own stand. But just try to interpret the same happening in the national point of view, in the nationalistic point of view, in the patriotic point of view. If you think that you just for a moment you think that you are a Sri Lankan, and anybody who goes against the interest of the nation will be called a traitor. Here in India, we adore or we glorify Vibhishana because he happened to support Lord Rama based on certain moral values of his own interpretation of what is right and what is wrong. But the same happening, the same circumstances, the same development, if you think on different grounds, like the grounds of patriotism of a nation, you will definitely say that Vibhishana is a traitor for Sri Lanka. I hope you understood there is a thin line between justice and morality. So that's why I said, like, morality is often governed by a combination of factors which influence our understanding of what is right and what is wrong. And while understanding anything that happens around us, and we come to a conclusion to decide what is right and what is wrong, you will find that several cultural norms, religious beliefs, philosophical theories, personal experiences, social observations, social contracts, empathy and compassion of the human beings, legal system of the country, rationality and reasoning, these are all the factors which are very conspicuously contributing to the establishment of moral values in a country. Whenever we talk about the cultural aspects, every culture is different than the other. That is what is the speciality of each culture. So different cultures have distinct moral codes and values. These norms are often passed down from generation to generation, through generation to generation, and can greatly influence an individual's sense of understanding of morality. And that's why I said, like, all the factors, all the elements, like cultural norms, religious beliefs, philosophical theories, okay, then personal experiences, social observations, empathy and compassion of an individual. These elements very positively contribute to the formation of moral values or the moral codes in a country. So, whenever we see justice and morality with this perspective, you will realize that it also has certain influence on the creative writers. Because right in the beginning I told that I'll be able to focus on only three aspects. One, the concept of justice, morality, and the reflections of justice and morality in literature. So I may not be able to discuss the world literature, because one thing we have to accept, that the justice and morality of a particular country will definitely have its own role and influence on the creative writers, whether you are writing poetry, prose, or whatnot. So you will realize that these reflections can be seen in literature. I'll be able to refer to a few notable authors from English literature as such. The themes of justice and morality have been explored extensively throughout English literature. That I can say very firmly, providing a profound insight into the human nature, societal values, the moral codes and codes and conducts, and all these ethical standards that will definitely reflect in the creation of literature, in all forms of literature, I mean to say. If at all you happen to go through the plays of William Shakespeare, the novels of Charles Dickens, the novels of George Orwell, Harper Lee, Mary Shelley, Jane Austen, Oscar Wilde, and even the latest one, Harry Potter's writer J.K. Rowling, you will realize that all these authors and creative writers have immensely contributed in their writings, in their creative writings, and they have loaded their literature with the concepts of justice and morality, and most of the contributions by them are having the themes of justice and morality. I'll just take a couple of examples and conclude my presentation today. I hope you know one among the four great tragedies by William Shakespeare. That is Hamlet, the tragedy of the Prince of Denmark. If you get into this theme, you will realize that the play Hamlet delves into moral dilemmas. What was the moral dilemma of the Prince Hamlet? Probably you might have heard this quotation for several times. To be or not to be, that is the question. Actually, he was fully injected with the idea of revenge, taking revenge from the murderer of his father. Of course, his own uncle. And later he also comes to know that his own real mother is also involved in the conspiracy. So, he was injected with the idea of revenge. But see, the moral dilemma of Hamlet. I'll tell just one of the situations over there in the play. Once what happens, the murderer, his own uncle, was performing his prayer, and Hamlet felt that this is the right time to kill the murderer, to take his revenge. But the moment he was in a position to take out his own arms or his own sword, he got an idea, and that was a moral idea. That's why I called it a moral dilemma. To be or not to be, that is the question. What was the question in front of Hamlet? He was in a moral dilemma. The moral dilemma was, if at all I kill Claudius at this moment of time, when the murderer is directly in contact with the God by the means of a prayer, he will straightaway go to the heaven. And I want to send this murderer only to the hell. and that was the moral dilemma in his mind, and he is not taking the opportunity to kill the murderer. Then whatever happens later, that is a different part of this particular storyline or the plot. But the point is, see, one step that he has taken, that is the inaction actually. So this inaction, because of moral dilemma, takes him to his catastrophe. So likewise, you will realize that across Indian English literature, world literature and literatures of all languages in the world, you will find that the theme of justice and morality has preoccupied, because all the authors and writers are also trying to pass on the same message that either the religions are passing on, or the country and the judiciary system of the nation is passing on. You have another play written by William Shakespeare. I hope you might have heard about it. The Merchant of Venice. This play explores the conflict between justice and mercy, you see. Whether you should be only just or you should be merciful. Mercy, pity, peace and love, you might have heard about this poem also. But what actually happens in the courtroom? In this play, if you go through, you will come across a courtroom scene. The trial is going on in the court, where the Shylock demands his pound of flesh. See here, what are you asking for? You are asking for pound of flesh. This highlights the rigid application of justice versus the need for compassion and mercy in life. So this is how all the literary creators, all the contributors like William Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, or any other you can take as a reference. If at all you talk about Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, then by George Orwell, 1984, The Animal Farm, these are the famous works of art which contribute to the theme of justice and morality. But anyway, if at all, I think there is a time constraint and I may not be able to give any number of examples, scattering from English literature as such. But I will straight away come to the conclusion of my presentation today. Whenever we talk about justice and morality, as I started my discussion from the maxims like justice delayed is justice denied, and justice hurried is justice buried. So finally, I would like to conclude that justice is an ongoing pursuit. It is an ongoing pursuit, and societies continuously work towards achieving a fairer and more just world, because every individual expects justice. On the other hand, you have morality. Morality is a complex and multifaceted concept, with different factors playing a role in shaping an individual's moral beliefs and actions in life. So finally, I say a statement that the coexistence of law, justice and morality forms the cornerstone of a just and equitable society. So with this note, I conclude my presentation. I am thankful to D.Y. Patil Law College for giving me this honor and share my couple of ideas on justice, morality and its reflection in English literature. Thank you very much.